morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with TP-Link. Today's hosts are both Pravin Safa, he is the Distribution Sales Manager, as well as Kevin Din, he is their Field Application Engineer. Both of them will be presenting today. And as always, if any of you have any questions, please submit them in the question box, and Shervin will be able to answer them at the end of today's presentation. Shervin and Kevin, thank you so much for being with us. We greatly appreciate it and look forward to what you have to share with us today. I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Yeah, thank you, Julie, and thank you, Microcom Technologies, for allowing TP-Link to present our presentation today. Myself, Shervin Safa, I've been at TP-Link for over 3 years now. I also included Kevin Din, who is our field application, who's been with TP-Link for over 2 years now. So the goal of this presentation is to give you an overview of TP-Link, our brand, our products, and our solutions. So let's go ahead and get started. So on today's agenda, we'll be discussing who is TP-Link, discuss our Omada SDN solution, which is the controller where you can manage our networking hardware. And then you guys will have the pleasure of watching Kevin give a Omada live illustration of how our platform works. So who is TP-Link? To give you guys a little background regarding our national footprint here in the US, TP-Link Systems US started US operations in 2005, and recently we've now reincorporated our global headquarters to Irvine, California as well. With that being said, TP-Link's Irvine US-based locations host in-house pre-sale support, in-house post-sales support, in-house marketing, local sales team, and California warehouse. So what does this mean? Here at TP-Link, we try and become a value-added partner for our customers. We want to be involved in the pre-deployment scenario, the post-deployment support. We want to show customers they could deploy our networking hardware efficiently with the simple procedures that we outline, and make sure that they're able to achieve successful deployments over and over again, which will help create trust within our TP-Link brand. So TP-Link is a manufacturer. We control our complete manufacturing process aside from the chipsets. The majority of our chipsets are purchased from national chip manufacturers such as Broadcom or Qualcomm. We do have complete control of our supply chain as we are the manufacturer. So what this means is we're able to identify when our products are being manufactured to the date it will be delivered to our warehouse in Southern California. So this helps provide accurate lead times to our customers when they are trying to get TP-Link products. Not only that, since we are the manufacturer, we have a less than 1% defective return rate on our B2B products, ensuring that we stand by the products we manufacture. So now that I gave you guys a little background about TP-Link, we'll go ahead and discuss our controllers, our networking equipment, and go on from there. So what is Omada? Omada is our SDN platform to manage networking equipment such as routers, gateways, and switches. We do have 3 different types of controllers. First being the cloud-based controller. Within our cloud-based controller, we have 2 types of controllers, our standard and essential. I'll be speaking about essential on our next slide. And then we do have a software controller. Software controller you can host in your own VM environment, cloud instance, or local server. We also have on-prem controllers. These on-prem devices will connect to TP-Link devices on site and report back to the cloud. In terms of managed scalability, our cloud-based controller, you can host unlimited devices. For the software controller, depending on your hardware features or your setup, you can host up to 10,000 TP-Link devices. For our on-prem controllers, the OC200 and the OC300, you could host well over a few hundred TP-Link devices. The types of devices you can manage within our controllers are access points, switches, and routers. I did want to highlight the days of configuring devices and networks through a web GUI or through standalone mode is shortly coming to an end, right? The purpose of our controller is to make network configurations or device configurations as simple and easy deploy as possible. So customers are able to leverage our controllers to ensure smoother IT operations when they deploy. So we recently just came out with a free cloud controller. So what does this mean is you could host devices on our TP-Link cloud controller at no cost. So no device licensing cost. The beauty of our Omada Essential Cloud Controller is not only is a scalable solution where you could host multiple sites, you can also deploy our devices with zero-touch provisioning. What that means is you could pre-configure the devices beforehand, ship it out to the site. Once those devices pick up an IP, it'll automatically download those network configurations from the cloud controller. Not only that, we have an app to go with our controller. And if there's a time where you want to have more abundant features from the cloud controllers, we do offer a seamless upgrade subscription to our standard Omada controller. So let's go ahead and talk about our Omada access points, right? So we have ceiling access points, outdoor access points, in-wall access points, and now more recently, PON access points. So we have abundant amount of access points dependent on the scenario or the vertical where customers like to deploy. So high density, we do have our 660HG and EAP 620HG. With the high density access points, at the end of the day, they're able to host more concurrent clients on one access points than typical access points. We do have wide area coverage access points such as our EAP 783 and 683 UR. For outdoor environments, we do have our outdoor access points, which is the EAP 650 outdoor. However, if you need long range access points, we do have our EAP 12 bridge kits. And then in-wall access points you often see in hotel rooms and other types of kind of boutique stands is our EAP 655 wall and EAP 615 wall. Now we're pleased to come out with last year our Wi-Fi 7 access points, right? So what is Wi-Fi 7? First of all, it comes with the 6 gigahertz band. So not only our clients can now utilize the 2.45, they can now utilize the 6 band as well. What does that mean? It means with Wi-Fi 7, you are now future-proofing your network. Whether you're deploying a single gig deployment, multi-gig, or up to 10 gig, we now have products that can relate to Wi-Fi 7 deployments. So our gateways. TP-Link does host several SMB routers. What these gateways are useful for is for wide-ranging reasons. So first, we do have our built-in wireless gateways, which is our ER706W and our 4G version of that model. What this means is not only can you have failover, with a backup SIM card slot, just in case the primary WAN goes down. You also have wireless antennas, which you could also mesh with our access points and help extend the network coverage. Not only that, we do have wired routers as well. These wired routers can be single gig, multi-gig, and some of our routers that are rack mountable have 10 gig uplinks. So our switch line is very robust. Recently, we came out with our layer 3 switches. We have our layer 2+ switches, smart switches, and easy managed switches. All of these types of switches can be managed within our Omada controller. And here's a little bit more background information on our layer 3 switching. You come with static routing, OSPF, DHCP server and relays are supported, higher PoE capability. These switches are indeed stackable, and they do come with redundant power supplies for high availability. Not only that, we do have outdoor rated switches now. So this switch, our SG2005P-PD, is outdoor rated, PoE++ powered in, and then PoE+ out. So this is a great product for switches that need to be deployed in the outdoor environment. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight our product line when it comes to access points. We have ceiling mount access points, wall plates, outdoor access points, outdoor wireless bridge kits, and Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6 as well. Omada switches, as we move towards a Wi-Fi 7 kind of economy, you're going to start seeing a lot more multi-gig switches and PoE+ or PoE++ powered switches. So our switch product line is robust to support these products. Gateways, we do have wired gateways, integrated gateways, which is a built-in gateway controller and switch into one product. We do have multi-gig, 10 gig, and single gig gateways as well, wired or wireless. And on top of that, we do have the accessories to go with the networking stack, such as media converters, SFP, SFP+, QSFP modules, whether you're talking about single mode or multi-mode, PoE adapters, PoE+, PoE++ injectors, and then rack mounts as well. So thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to Kevin, who's gonna go ahead and show everyone our Omada controller.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us in our webinar today. And of course, thank you Microcom Technologies and Julie for giving us the opportunity to present the TP-Link Omada software-defined networking solution today. To kick it off, so Shervin did a really good representation and presentation of what Omada is, the current platforms that are supported on Omada, such as our cloud-based controller, software controller, and hardware controller. Today, mainly what I will be showing you guys today is going to be the actual controller in action in a live production environment. So to kick it off, of course, to access our software controller, hardware controller, or cloud-based controller, this can all be done remotely. So via this domain up top, which is going to be use1omada.tplinkcloud.com. The only requirement on this end is, of course, for you to have a valid TP-Link ID. What that is going to be your email address associated to our internal TP-Link ID system. So to do that, you can quite literally go to this exact domain and sign up for a TP-Link ID for free. From there, you will receive an email confirmation, and that way you can get online on the Omada cloud-based controller. To begin, what we're looking at this point in time is, of course, the interface in which you will see all your controllers. Right now, what I'm looking at is a variety of different controllers. This is can range from 30 controllers to hundreds to thousands of controllers, depending on how you would like to configure and go about managing your controllers. To kick it off, where you're going to want to go for your controllers is of course the actual controller level. So this is the management interface for the controller. However, to get into the controller level, in this example, I will be launching one of our lab controllers. To start, you're going to go ahead and look for your controller. It's going to be named by the organization, and then from there you can go ahead and launch the following. On Omada, there's going to be multiple levels to the controller. To start, you're going to have the customer level, which is going to be where you can manage a variety of different sites, very similar to the following you see on this left-hand side. CBC Demo USA is going to be the customer. However, within the customer, there's going to be two sites, which is CBC Demo and ISP Lab Controller. In this example today, we're going to be looking at CBC Demo, which is our site level. To begin, you're looking at the dashboard. The dashboard is going to show you a variety of different analytics about your networking devices and your network as a whole. Of course, this dashboard is completely customizable, so you can feel free to add any analytics that you deem as a requirement for your particular use case. Also on here, you can see a variety of different analytics telling you details about your switching, your routing, your access points, your interference on those access points, and so on. Additionally, there's going to be a variety of different devices you manage, of course, on this network, ranging from gateways, switches, APs, OLTs, and so on. This can all be easily looked at from the dashboard. Next, we're going to look at statistics. Statistics is going to be where you're going to see the actual analytics and performance of your following devices. So as we saw on the dashboard, that's a quick overview of every single device you have on the network. However, when you go into statistics, that's where you're going to see very specific analytics for the specific devices on your network. In this example, you can see here, I'm looking at analytics from the 8411 or ER8411, which is our gateway, our multi-gig gateway. This can also change to your switches, to your access points, depending on your use case. And of course, the average duration that we're looking at is going to be 24 hours, but you can extend this duration to 365 days as well. Next, we're going to look at devices. This is where you're going to see a lot of times the bulk of your network itself. So all the devices that are connected that are currently being managed by Omada will be presented in this following interface. There are multiple statuses for these devices, such as provisioning, configuring, connected, heartbeat missed, and disconnected. They all range and they all mean different things. So that is definitely something that we can elaborate into more in a follow-up meeting and so on. Of course, all of this following information is documented and is presented on our official website. So if time is of the essence, of course, you can always access those documentations on just our official Omada website. On this particular interface, of course, there are a variety of different things you can do. One of the biggest things is going to be the fact that you can go ahead and manage your actual switches itself, such as the ports. You can look at the clients associated to the switch, and of course, you can set configurations on the switch itself as well. So something like changing your management VLAN can be done from this interface. However, something where it's along the lines of configuring VLANs to be passed through the switch will be done on a different one that we'll cover later in this webinar. Next, we're going to look at clients. So these are all the clients connected to your network, whether that be wirelessly or wired. A variety of different analytics you can see up top, such as username, which is associated to the MAC address at this time, but can definitely be changed. IP address, VLAN, SSID, channel, and wireless connection. These are the default analytics that you can see based off of your clients. However, you can definitely add more further down the line, just heavily based off of your use case. One very common thing you're going to hear from us at TP-Link here is the fact that a lot of the interfaces are changeable. So you can decide which analytics are going to be a requirement on your end and which ones are not. We simply just put the analytics there and you just need to enable it based off of your use cases. For insights, it's going to be a variety of different applications here. So from session limit, known clients, past connections, and so on. This is going to be the duration in which your network itself has been live. So you're able to see a variety of different analytics from here. A very, very useful tool when it comes to troubleshooting any type of network as well. Next, we're going to be looking at logs. Logs are going to show you a variety of different analytics. This can be done via webhooks, via email, via our application. However you would like to receive these logs, it can be done as well. Of course, notifications are highly dependent on what you select once again. So you can see here that webhooks is not enabled on a lot of these different notifications, however, email is. Within these notifications, however, you can set it at a system level, at a device level, or at a client level, just dependent on your requirements. Next, we're looking at audit logs, specifically very useful if you have quite a few people on your staff doing different configurations on the network. Within audit logs, what you're going to see here is the operator in which what they have done to this controller, the configurations they have pushed, and of course the status in which these configurations are set. So of course, if the configurations in the following is successful, the status will be successful. However, if it were to fail, it would of course show the status of failure. Specifically useful when you have a larger staff and maybe there was an accidental mistake or accidental configuration done. You would be able to track down what configuration exactly caused this issue and who, of course, the operator caused this issue as well. So an easy way to troubleshoot and fix these following networks without looking into it too much in depth and having to go through the whole entire troubleshooting process. Of course, lastly, what we're going to be looking at in a few other slides is going to be reports. Reports specifically useful for if you are going to do a live deployment. And for example, your end user would like these following reports to be exported, or even in general, when you want to know more about your network. This is going to be a general overview of your whole entire network. So that includes a summary, wireless summary, wired summary, and so on. This can all be exported into a PDF or a CSV file, depending on your requirements. Next, we're looking at our map. So this is the general topology of the network that Omada is currently managing. So you can see here that we have an 8411 connected to a 2428P, which is going to be a 24-port PoE switch, PoE plus switch, connected to two following access points after that, one being a point-to-point, point-to-multi-point system, and one being a general access point, which is one of our Wi-Fi 6 access points. Additionally, on top of that, you do have a heat map tool to utilize, specifically useful to plan out your deployments prior to actually sending the devices on site. So for your access points, you're able to determine what's the right fit for your scenario, and of course, the coverage in which these can be done. Also, additionally, you see that we have a few walls drawn out here. Specifically, what we're doing here is making sure you have the most optimal coverage and, of course, the most accurate image of the coverage. Lastly is the device map underneath this maps tool, and that's going to show where your devices are geographically located on the map or the world. So as we are in the US and our lab is currently in California, you can see here the exact location in which our devices are being held. Next, of course, is networking tools. Networking tools is going to show you a variety of different analytics, mainly for troubleshooting, of course. However, definitely a tool to leverage when you have any type of issues or you just want a little bit more knowledge in depth on what your network is currently doing. So that ranges from network checks being pings, traceroute, DNS lookups, and ARP tables, packet captures on the access point, switch, and gateway, and of course, lastly, terminal to access the device directly. And that goes for all access points, switches, and gateways as well. Now, when it comes to the actual heart and soul of Omada, where your configurations are done, where the majority of you are going to spend your time, to be completely transparent, is going to be the settings tab. This is where you're going to do a lot of your configurations ranging from VLANs, MAC filtering, rate limit, LDAP, APN, and so on. So device CLI is also offered underneath this particular interface as on this right-hand side. So traditionally, of course, if you would like to go through the CLI method, that is also offered on Omada. As we're running a little bit short on time, we're not going to dive super in depth on what these actual configurations can and can't do. Of course, we'd be more than happy to elaborate in a further meeting, but this is going to be a generic overview of how Omada operates as a whole. As Sherman mentioned earlier, our cloud-based controller limitation, of course, is unlimited. In theory, depending on your instance, of course, we ask that all our partners reach out to us if you're going to exceed that limit of 10,000 devices. Our software controller is going to be set at 10,000 devices. However, we definitely have some developments coming out on Omada that will hopefully change that limitation as well. And lastly, our hardware controller will also have a limitation in terms of devices. That's going to be hosted on-prem, and the hardware controller itself will be in control of the whole entire Omada network. The interface itself will remain very similar to the one you are seeing today. So nothing too different than what you're currently seeing at this time. Other than that, of course, we do have the hotspot option, which is the last feature that we will be going over today. That is going to consist of a dashboard, authorized clients, vouchers, local users, form off data, and operators. What this specifically is very useful for is, of course, our hospitality type of deployments, or maybe a retail type of deployment, where you're going to need a portal, a voucher, and so on. This is going to be very specific, and of course, this interface itself can be operated on its own, meaning I can give Shervin, for example, this access to this interface and not access to my network as a whole. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in our webinar today. I'm going to go ahead and toss this over back to Shervin, and then let Shervin follow through with the remainder of the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you. Julie, I think we go to the questions now.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, you guys, for that wonderful presentation. We greatly enjoyed it. Let's see. I do have some questions. Let's get started with the first one. Here we go. Shervin, can you tell us, does Omada integrate with third-party systems or platforms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So within Omada, we do have open APIs. With our open APIs list, anything on the dashboard, we have APIs for, which you could go ahead and send API calls from your own software platform that you use.
Thank you so much. Next question here, Shervin. Does Omada support Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E access points?
Yep, and now we also support Wi-Fi 7. So we support Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E, and Wi-Fi 7.
Excellent. Wi-Fi 7. Great. That's coming up. That's coming up very soon, right, for everybody?
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Next question. Does Omada support APIs for custom integrations?
It's dependent on what type of API calls you would need. I would recommend reaching out to TP-Link directly and presenting the requirements needed, and then we could go from there. Yep.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Thank you. A couple more questions here. Next one. How does Omada handle firmware updates and security patches?
Yeah, so to answer your question, for firmware updates, there is a few different options you can do. Whether it's at the controller level, you're updating the firmware on the software controller, let's say, or the devices. You can schedule firmware updates at specific times if you need to, such as a staggered firmware update or a rolling schedule firmware update. So we do have optionalities on the firmware update depending on how your company likes to update the firmware of those devices.
Excellent, thank you. Last question here, Shervin. I'm going to say I believe Kevin touched on this. If you can touch on it some more, what is the maximum number of devices an Omada controller can handle?
So it's dependent on the type of controller. The Omada Cloud controller theoretically could handle unlimited devices. The software controller can handle up to 10,000 devices, depending on the specs, the hard drive specs and the RAM specs. And then the on-prem controllers devices are fixed up to 100 or around 125 TP-Link devices for OC200 and around 500 to 600 devices on the OC300. So if you're trying to scale at large, it's highly recommended you opt to a software controller or a cloud-based controller.
Excellent. Thank you, Shervin and Kevin, for your presentation, and Shervin for answering all of those questions for us today. And thank you to everyone attending today's webinar. And if anyone has any further questions, of course, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so everyone can view it again. Shervin, Kevin, thank you guys so much. We look forward to the next one, which we already have one scheduled in the not too distant future. So looking forward to that. Everybody have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.